A good evening to you all. In place of your beloved rap critic, I will be stepping in this October to guide you through the dark recesses of hip-hop. The blood-stained corners and crevices that turn the most sane individuals to madness. I go by many names, striking fear in the hearts of men and excitement in the hearts of women. But the one I'm taking the most liking to is Black Thunder, the ghost of Isaac Hayes. And this month we will dwell amongst the most haunting lyrics in hip-hop, the sounds that send chills into the souls of men and rattles their very faith in humanity. Starting things off right, I will begin with the top 6 most haunting songs in hip-hop. Why top 6? You'll figure it out. These are tunes of terror, songs that not only jump scare you like so many cheap horror flicks, no, I mean songs that carve their dark thoughts into your psyche, making you just that much more reluctant to turn off the lights on pitch black evenings. These are songs that you put on not only when you want to spook your guests, these are songs you put on when you want them to gaze at you in wide-eyed, slack-jawed shock of your twisted choice in music. I'm actually serious. The songs we're about to get into will not be the rap equivalent of the Monster Mash. We're about to get into some serious I mean it. If you have weak constitutions for violent or sexual themes, you may want to stop watching right now. So having been fairly warned, let's get started.
And God said he should send his one begotten son to lead the wild into the ways of the man.
Now the creepiest thing about this song isn't necessarily the lyrics themselves. It's about the beat, the delivery of the rhymes, and the context within which this song was released.
Come with me, Hail Mary, run quick, see what do we have here now?
See, all his career, Tupac had been obsessed about his own death and what would happen if he were to be murdered. And then once he was actually killed, a couple of months later the music video for this song came out, complete with bells resembling tolls of death, cryptic lyrics coupled with whispering and screaming, and a video about Machiavelli, his new rap name, rising from the grave and enacting revenge on his enemies.
Bow down, pray to God, hoping that he's listening. Seeing niggas coming for me, my diamonds when they glisten. Now pay attention, best man, please, Father. I'm a ghost, these killing fields, Hail Mary, catch me. If I go, let's go deep inside the solitary mind of a madman. Screams in the dark, evil lurks, enemies, see me flee.
The whole package, to some, was just too real to not be playing into a bigger conspiracy concerning Tupac's possible return or him taking revenge upon his enemies. However, as creepy and unsettling as Tupac's presence is, there are a couple of things that keep it from being higher on this list. Those things would be the guest verses.
They got an APB out on my thug family since I almost run these streets like these scandalous freaks.
Yeah, whereas Pac weaves a pensive, enigmatic, nightmarish picture with his rhymes and delivery and giving off a fearful vibe that works in the sense of a slowly boiling psychotic episode, the other guys just kinda rap with the typical thug bravado.
Peep the whole scene and whatever's going on around me.
They just don't seem to be treating it like the brooding, gloomy track that it is. I mean, sure, they're both just spitting gangster rap lyrics about death and murder, but they do it with no sense of subtlety or nuance.
We've been traveling on this wavy road. Sometimes life could be a heavy load.
Oh yeah, and then this guy shows up. I don't know who this guy is or why they felt the need to put him on this song, but it's not as threatening as they think it is.
We won't worry, everything well curry. Yes, we're free like a bird in the tree. We're running from the penitentiary.
Also, this was oddly enough the second song with a music video where Tupac threatens someone else with his friend spitting subpar rhymes while a Jamaican guy meanders around vocally on the outro.
You have found a better respect to Pac, baby. Yes, I'm proud to be black.
I don't know why this was such a specific thing.
I sit alone in my four-cornered room staring at candles.
Now this is one of the quintessential hip-hop tracks of the 90s, and a very interesting one at that, as it was a subdued depiction of mental health issues in the ghetto.
At night I can't sleep, I toss and turn, candlesticks in the dark, visions of bodies being burned. Four walls just staring at a nigga. I'm paranoid, sleeping with my finger on the trigger.
Now, I don't think that was what they were actively trying to show us. Like, it wasn't supposed to be an after-school special type rap lesson about how mental health issues affect people. But just by them writing a song about paranoia and delusional hallucinations, it comes across that way.
He owns a black hat like I own, a black suit and a cane like my own.
And this line in particular is quite jarring. because his verse is about being watched by someone. But by him describing someone who dresses just like him, I'm forced to assume he's ultimately saying he's afraid of himself, which can be seen as a physical manifestation of being afraid of what his own mind is doing to him. Now, I always found it interesting that Scarface had two verses. It's like he was so haunted by his troubles that he just wasn't done by the end of the first verse, switching from a verse about paranoia to a verse about depression.
Day by day it's more impossible to cope. I feel like I'm the one that's doing dope. I often drift when I drive, having fatal thoughts of suicide. Bang and get it over with, and then I'm worry free, but that's bullshit.
But while Scarface's verse deals more with being afraid of yourself and being unwell, Willie Gee's verse more directly deals with being afraid of others taking revenge on him, that what he's done could come back to haunt him.
Is it that fool that I ran off the block? Or is it that nigga last week that I shot? Or is it the one I beat for $5,000? Thought he had cane, but it was gold, not a flower.
He then tells us of a specific event where he was paranoid.
Late at night, something ain't right. I feel I'm being tailed by the same sucker's headlight. It ain't calm, just like I figured. I got my hand on the motherfucking trigger.
But of course, his fear is quelled by what's really happening.
When I saw him, make your ass start giggling. 3 blind, crippling, crazy senior citizens.
Wait, they were all blind? How the hell were they driving? But anyways, my favorite verse is probably Bushwick Bill's.
This year Halloween fell on a weekend. Me and Ghetto Boys are trick-or-treating, robbing little kids for bags, till an old man got behind our ass. So we speeded up the pace, took a look back, and he was right before our face.
Because whereas the other two talk about a threat that's far away and too hazy to make out, Bushwick tells us about a seemingly real event that involves someone actively getting up close and personal. And with the others, you can say to yourself, well, they're obviously just paranoid, nothing is actively attacking them. But with this verse, shit is going down.
He be in for a squabble, no doubt, so I swung and hit the nigga in his mouth.
But then, as it turns out, even though Bushwick details the most real danger that any of them were talking about, apparently, none of it actually happened.
The more I swung, the more blood flew. Then he disappeared, and my boys disappeared too. Then I felt just like a fiend. It wasn't even close to Halloween. My hands were all bloody from punching on the concrete. Goddamn, homie. My mind is playing tricks on me.
Now, where you could say that this verse was just showing us a stereotypical crazy person having a hallucination, I think that in the environment that the Ghetto Boys were from, this verse might have been delving more into the ideas of hallucinogenic drugs playing a role in exacerbating their paranoia. Which sounds about right, since according to Scarface, who originally wrote this verse for himself, he brought up before that he had been experimenting with drugs since he was a child. Now, if I were to be nitpicky though, I would have to say that a major place where the song fails to be truly scary is the beat itself. It's kind of not doing a good job of helping portray the schizophrenic, paranoid atmosphere. It's a little too upbeat and funky to work on its own, but in this case, the lyrics more than make up for that. Now this next song is a newer one, from the demented mind of Tyler the Creator. Now, at first, you might think I'd put Yonkers or something like that on this list, but honestly, that song was more random and scattershot than it was actually scary.
I'm a fucking walking paradox. No, I'm not.
I mean, that's not as scary as much as it is just comically contradictory. No, to me, the song that inflicts the most troubling vibes is this one.
Golden rubbers in these denim pockets. On my waist, there's a black Glock. New girl moved on the block. She been plotting on my brown cock.
Okay, maybe that line is more awkward than creepy, but I'm talking about the entire premise of the song. See, the first verse is rapped by Frank Ocean, detailing him meeting a new girl in the neighborhood, and while he, being the smooth player he is, has sex with her basically that same day, there's another guy that wants her too, and he doesn't have a problem making that fact known.
During sex, I overheard a sword sliced the air. I pulled out the nana, rolled off the bed and shot back. Papa looked out the glass and was sprinting on the grass. A real ninja with the blade and the mask.
We are then introduced to this madman in ninja gear as played by Tyler the Creator, the weirdo obsessed with the girl in question.
Eyes wide open so he can see you in the dark when you're sleeping. You're sleeping alone in bed. Check your window. Swag. He's at your window.
Now when Tyler finally does start rapping, his style is very calm, yet with small interjections of frustrated screams, as if his rage over this girl is barely being held back like so much bile in the sewer about to overflow and spill into the streets, as he raps about desperately wanting this woman for himself.
I ain't like hitting soft from turning kisses to bites. I'm a down-to-earth nigga with intention that's right. You'll be down to earth quicker if you diss me tonight, but I'll be the happiest if you decide to kick it tonight.
It's a frightening peek into the psyche of a mentally unstable person when they fall in love with someone. Because once he's attracted to her, she has no choice other than to either be with him or be murdered in cold blood.
It ain't is the bullets if you say no after all this, and I just couldn't take it, just so motherfucking gorgeous.
This is its own particular brand of creepy, because with a lot of horror, the idea is that someone did something in their past that they're paying for. But here, the girl in question hasn't done anything wrong deserving of the pursuit of this maniac, short of having the misfortune of being seen as attracted to a psychopath. Perhaps the scariest thing about this song, though, is that plenty of people in their youth have been to this place in some form or fashion, and you get angry that you can't have someone that you begin to resent them, someone that you at one point believed you were in love with.
You can chill and I can act like I don't wanna fuck. You can tell me all your problems like I really give one.
Or someone that you honestly just wanted to have sex with because you're only physically attracted to them, which is probably more likely. But the true horror comes from not how different this character is from us, as what we would consider being normal, but how similar he is to us, how his wants resemble ours, the longing to be loved, the sting of being rejected, and the way you wish you could make them feel your pain to satisfy a misplaced sense of wanting to get back at them for rejecting you. This song is that irrational feeling taken to its illogical extreme.
I just wanna drag your lifeless body to the forest and fornicate with it, but that's because I'm in love with you. Cunt.
To its very illogical extreme. And to make things more uncomfortable, that's actually his ex-girlfriend in the video.
Okay, I understand you guys are pleading insanity, claiming demonic spirits possess you to do these hideous murders.
Now some would say that the Ghetto Boys invented the genre of horrorcore. Well, if they invented it, then the Gravediggers perfected it with their song Diary of a Madman.
Bear witness as I exercise my exorcism, the evil that lurks within, the sin, the terrorism.
Now when making this list, I wanted to stray away from songs that were too typical as horrorcore. Hack and slash rap songs that just talked about randomly running around, chopping up bodies and shooting people in the face like a serial killer with no motive. Basically, I wanted to review songs that were a little more than
murder, 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 and kill, kill, kill.
However, if there's one song that I can make an exception for, it's this one.
I saw the torture, brutal murder of my father, so my brain became stained with the horror. I'm having reoccurring nightmares of being soaking wet, strapped down to the electric chair.
The imagery they use here goes beyond hacking and slashing. It's just outright clinically insane. Some of this stuff is straight out of a Stephen King novel.
On your right side there's fire, your left deep waters. Watch your step, there's deep waters. What's that coming through the floor? Is a claw. Took his fucking ass to the fucking core.
And I of course have to give my favorite verse to the RZA, who delivers the most intricately horrifying verse of them all.
I got tackled with handcuffs and shackles and restraint in the bottom of a holy tabernacle. So my eyelids open so I couldn't sleep. About to die from thirst, that's when the minister quenched my jaws with a cold glass of vinegar. Upon my wounds they seasoned me with salt and knelt my hands and feet to the form of a cross. I cried as the blood dripped inside of my eye, refusing to die.
Jesus. Not much to be said about this one, other than the fact that the rhymes and beats connect perfectly to make the ideal horror song you could play to scare the crap out of people based purely on their horrific imagery. Well, what better way to celebrate a time of evil and death than by going straight to hell? You all might not know about Ja'Kai the Motormouth, but he had a pretty slept-on album back in '05 called God vs. Satan, in which he had to go through 6 different scenarios to prove whether or not he will fight on God's side or join Satan's army. It's a dark, twisted, yet creative album that I suggest you all give a listen to sometime. But at the crux of it is a song called The Tunnel, about Ja'Kai getting into a car crash and descending into the depths below.
I heard it is light before, some stated it was amazing. So tell me why I'm afraid, then the light looks more like a blazing fire. But this is hell, I just entered the gates. First emotion I experience is anger and hate, blaspheming God for sending me to such a dangerous place. Now I'm here in this torture as far as the eye can see. I cannot believe that I was deceived.
And along with a sad, plotting, gloomy beat filled with appropriately hellish sound effects, the man goes into such intricate detail it's breathtaking.
I'm here for a lifetime, and that's what saddens me more than the fire burning my kneecaps. But never can you sleep. Bugs will forever eat at your tissue, which you left with meat hanging from chest and cheeks. I'm seeing creatures from movie flicks, they really do exist in demon form, and truly is the spookiest.
And to top it all off, near the end, he meets someone he probably wasn't expecting to see.
I see a man with what appears to be a Bible, dressed like a deacon, and he's preaching and seems to be teaching a group. Why did you leave me, man? I said to this cat, like I'm mad, cause the fact is, this cat is my dad. He explained to me how he used to steal from the church, slept around with choir women, had a strong crack addiction.
It comes together to make a dense, mind-rattling experience. And for the full impact, I suggest listening to the whole album. But by itself, it's still one eerie track. Remember when I said we're about to get into some serious shit? Yeah, this is exactly what I meant when I said we're about to get into some serious shit.
Ask a nigga doing life if he had another chance. But then again, there's always the wicked that knew in advance. Dance forever with the devil on a cold cell block. But that's what happens when you rape, murder, and sell rock. Devils used to be gods, angels that fell from the top. There's no diversity because we're burning in the melting pot.
This is quite possibly the best storytelling rap I've ever heard. It starts off simple enough, about a kid in the ghetto wanting to be a badass.
I once knew a nigga whose real name was William. His primary concern was making $1 million, being the illest hustler that the world ever seen. He used to fuck movie stars and sniff coke in his dreams.
So, stepping to one of the biggest gangs in town, he told him that he wanted to be jumped into the crew, and would do anything to prove that he could be just as hard as them. And so they give him an ultimatum.
But only a real thug can stab someone till they die. Standing in front of them, staring straight into their eyes. Billy realized that these men were well guarded, and they wanted to test him before business started.
And then
they saw a woman on the street walking alone, 3 in the morning, coming back from work on her way home. And so they quietly got out the car and followed her. Walking through the projects, the darkness swallowed her.
And it only gets darker from there. It's hard to say what happens next, mostly because I don't want to spoil just how horrifying this song gets, but he does say this.
They say death takes you to a better place, but I doubt it. He was lonely and scared, but only the devil responded because God wasn't there.
And that's all I really want to show, because if you haven't heard this song, you need to experience it firsthand for yourself. This is quite possibly one of the darkest morality tales you will ever hear this side of a Twilight Zone episode. Well, that's all I've got for you this week. Now some of you may be asking, hey, Black Thunder, the ghost of Isaac Hayes, how come you haven't brought up Eminem? To which I say, don't you worry about that.